Vice President Joe Biden recently caught some heat after he boasted about his willingness to work with segregationists in the past in order to pass bipartisan legislation and bipartisan efforts. Now, one person who has spoken out against this is Cory Booker, and he said, quote, Vice President Biden's relationship with proud segregationists are not the model for how we make America a safer and more inclusive place for Black people and for everyone. I have to tell Vice President Biden, as someone I respect, that he is wrong for using his relationships with Eastland and Talmadge as examples of how to bring our country together. And then he followed that by saying, you don't joke about calling Black men boys. So Biden had mentioned how these segregationists never referred to him as boy. Well, it's because you're white. That's why they don't refer to you as boy. But nonetheless, Biden was asked about his thoughts regarding what Cory Booker had to say, and here's his response.
Cory should apologize. He knows better. There's not a racist bone in my body. I've been involved in civil rights my whole career. Period, period, period.
Very Trump-esque to refuse to apologize, or at least understand the other perspective here.
Yeah. So Kamala Harris has now criticized him as well, and so is Bernie Sanders. And speaking of Bernie Sanders, imagine for a second Bernie Sanders talked about how much he liked reaching. Well, in this case, he isn't even across the aisle because they're fellow Democrats, but how much he liked working with segregationist Democrats. And hey, don't worry, they didn't call me boy like they call the Black people boys. He called me son, so it was okay. Do we agree that all the establishment would say that Bernie Sanders should immediately leave the race? Right? They would all say like, we knew it. There it is. There it is. No way. He's got to go.
They would latch onto that, and that would be the only Bernie coverage we would hear from mainstream news.
Yeah, and now to be fair, they've covered this topic and they've covered Booker and Harris, et cetera, being critical of Joe Biden, but it is a little bit different tone. And look, if you're looking at Joe Biden's overall record on civil rights, it's mixed. So he's been positive on some issues, but he voted against busing. But not only that, to this day says it was the right thing to do, that they should not have bused Black kids into white neighborhoods. That's uncomfortable. And you can't just say, hey, he did that 40 years ago. He says he still has that same position, that he was right about that. And so as a matter of politics, it's disastrous when your main supporters are African Americans, turn around and say, man, I'm so proud of being able to reach out. And even and to be fair to him, he said, when I disagreed with the segregationists, I still was proud to work with them and to get deals. And so it's bad politics. But it's also in this day and age, as I've said now a number of times, it's bad policy, because today when you reach out to the other side, all you get is the Mitch McConnells of the world who will never work on a progressive position. They'll only drag you to a more right-wing, pro-corporate position, et cetera. But one more thing about that, when Biden goes down this path, he does open himself up to bringing up the point about why Barack Obama picked him in the first place. Because a lot of African Americans have good feelings for him because he was Obama's vice president. But remember, Obama didn't need help with the African American vote. He didn't pick Biden based on how good he was on civil rights. He picked Biden because he would appeal to white people. So there's this great irony here now that he was originally picked by Obama to appeal to white people, and that's why now African Americans support him, not knowing fully his record on this issue.
Right, and
which is mixed. It's not just bad.
I like that you brought up the Obama administration, because the Obama administration was the most recent administration prior to Trump, obviously, right? Now, why am I giving you the most obvious facts in the world? Because what happened when Obama wanted to, pass policy in a bipartisan way? What happened? It's not like it was like 30 years ago. It just happened. They did not want to work with you. So Biden is part of that administration, and right now he's boastful about how he's been successful in reaching across the aisle and working with people or working with people he disagrees with in order to get things done.
Yeah, and guys, this is the most important part of it. It's not a gaffe. This is who Joe Biden is. That's why he keeps saying that he's proud of it. I don't mean the segregationist part or the civil rights issue. I mean this whole I work with the other side. So In the old days, in the 1990s, people were like, yes, and what did they do? Bill Clinton worked with the other side for some good things like getting rid of the deficit and creating a surplus, and for some terrible things like deregulating Wall Street, which Joe Biden voted for. Then Biden went and turned around and helped the credit card companies make sure that you couldn't declare bankruptcy and ever clear your loans. Trump got to clear his loans 6 different times, but you don't get to clear them. And if you're a student, you can't ever get rid of your student debt. That's because of Joe Biden working across the aisle with Republicans, and that was not to good effect. That screwed over the average American. Here's another time that Joe Biden reached across the aisle, when he said, you know what, this Iraq war sounds like a good idea. I'm gonna be bipartisan, I'm gonna reach across the aisle, and we're gonna vote to invade Iraq. Another disaster. I'd like Joe Biden to show me an example of when he reached across the aisle and actually helped the average American. Because I've got a ton of examples of him reaching across the aisle and getting the Republicans exactly what they wanted. That is not what we need in the Oval Office, especially in this day and age. That's his real core problem.